I read
I'm
it.
starting.
Go
Recording in progress, everybody. Welcome to our millionth edition of our Read What You Want book club. And
No,
I'm looking very
no,
forward
no, it's
to
not possible.
hearing what you have
No.
all been reading.
She
So
may
I
be
think,
there. She may be there, but she's just inside the door.
oh, this is so Toby's just trying to help someone get into her building. And Rona has to leave a little bit early today. So
Yeah.
without further ado, Rona, what have you been
Okay, I'll
reading?
be quick. Toby, by the way, I read Mad Honey. Toby, she doesn't hear me. I
Yeah,
read
she's
Mad
talking.
Honey. It was lights. It was Jodi Picoult. I read one book that somebody told me about. It's called Who Gets In? An Immigration Story.
Okay.
They said it was wonderful and fabulous. It's about the people that immigrated from Europe in the early part of the century and in the 20s and 30s to Canada, and they all went to Winnipeg. And and then from Winnipeg they came to Montreal. And at first, and it's almost like a documentary. It's not like really a book, But I'll tell you something. I realized it was my father-in-law. My father-in-law went to Winnipeg. He moved from Winnipeg to Montreal. He told us all about it. And I'm reading the book. I said, oh my God, I can't believe it. And then I became interested because I actually had a family member that was met. The name wasn't mentioned in the book, but he told it. And now I got the background story of how he got to Winnipeg from his father or grandfather. And
What's
it
the
was
name of the book,
very
Rona?
interesting. Pardon?
What's the name of the book?
It's called Who Gets In? An Immigration Story by Norman Ravin. He's a professor or something. I have to put my glasses on. And
He
he
gets
just
in?
wrote about
Who
who
gets
gets
in?
in.
Because I
An
have an uncle
immigration.
that went to Winnipeg and then to Montreal.
There you go. I bet your uncle knew my father-in-law, and that's what got me engrossed in this ridiculous. It's like something you would read for your masters or something. It's not really a book. It's like almost like a documentary, but it uses a family immigration story to expose Canada's bureaucratic of white nation building despite claims of multiculturalism. So it's about, the immigration practices in Canada and how they were whatever, anti this and anti that. But it's like most of our family, like this is how they came from Winnipeg. So my poor father, I wish he was still here because he'd probably know all the people. They mention the names of the people in the book and everything. So if you're interested in something that could be having to do with your family, it's a very interesting read. That's all I have to say. I don't know. And then I read this ridiculous, I went from that heavy book. I couldn't take it. It was so heavy. I read Dreamland by Nicholas Sparks. The one that,
Yeah,
so the one that wrote,
The
what's that
Notebook.
one? Notebook, which is my favorite. I saw that movie 40 times and read the book 10 times and cried every time. So I decided I would read a Nicholas Sparks one, Dreamland. And do I remember what it's about? Oh yeah, I see it's what here. It's a cute, like Jodi Picoult, Nicholas Sparks book kind of thing. And I'm just now going to pick up the book we need for next week. And also the one, what's that one that they made into a movie? The Light We Always See or something.
Oh my God. Do
All the
you
light
have
we cannot
Netflix?
see.
The Light We Cannot See. I'm going to pick that book up today. I know it's
do you have Netflix?
I know it's on Netflix, Carol, and everybody told me to watch it, but I'd rather read the book. If I have a choice watching the movie, I want to read the book. I find
but it's excellent. It's four episodes and it's excellent.
I know, but did you read the book?
No, I have it here for years.
Oh,
and I could
really?
Who wants the book? I never picked it up. And when I saw it was
I'm picking it up at the library. They reserved it for me. So.
I have a soft cover.
Katie, did you read that book?
I haven't yet because I haven't felt emotionally prepared. I know that it's got some emotional 1, 2, 3, 4s, and I haven't been. No, I haven't picked it up yet. I know, like, I have a tendency to read, like, everyone talked about it. I've only heard stellar things about it. But I have a tendency, I need to wait also until that goes away a little bit in my head before I pick up a book. I either have to get a book before I've heard anything about it, or else after all the hoopla has died
Oh,
down. Because
really?
otherwise I get these ideas, like I find the expectation.
You're influenced. You're
Yeah.
influenced by what everybody's saying. I didn't want to hear about the movie or anything too, because I think the book is probably better than the movie. That's how I
It can't
think.
be.
But
It can't be. As a
The
matter of
book is
fact,
always
no,
is
really,
almost always better than the movie,
excuse
but
me.
I'll bet you the
I
movie's
agree with
still
you.
very good because it looks like
Okay.
the production values are great. It has great actors in
Right.
it. But in
Yeah.
books, like, this is it. We have so many more layers than a movie can
I
give
agree
us.
with you.
But
I
it's about World War II, you know that, right?
Yeah.
And the Nazis. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
of
but it's an
course.
excellent story.
And somebody's blind in it. I'm really looking forward to the book. I really am.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll read the Penguin book first and then I'll do
Yeah.
this one.
Can I just say, the other book where the craw dogs sing,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I thought the movie was better because of the lush scenery.
Hmm.
It was
I remember
beautiful.
you
I
saying
read the
that,
book.
Carol.
Yeah.
I hated the movie. Honestly,
Okay,
I hated the
that's
movie
fine.
and loved the
Okay.
book. But I know what you're saying about the scenery, and you feel like you're in the book, like you're
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
I find they take these movies and they make them so commercial. I can't take
Yeah.
it. I just,
Okay.
that's just me.
Yeah.
For me, it always ends up being character based. That's one of my issues that I end up having, where I'm just like, that they wouldn't say it like that. And I'm like, and they didn't look like that.
Oh.
And they didn't like, no, 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 no.
You know what I don't like half the time? I don't like the acting. It's like they're reading the script. It bugs
Yeah,
me.
this
the way
one was
they're-
good. This was the all the light we cannot see. I binge
Yeah,
watched it.
everybody's
4
saying that,
hours.
Carol. You're not alone. I know that.
You
But
know
I'm
what?
gonna
It was
read the
just
book anyway.
good. All right. Okay. What else? What else do you have?
That's all for me. I'm very uninteresting this week.
Oh,
How
I
about
wouldn't
you,
You're
go.
Carol?
never
What else did you-
uninteresting, Rona.
Right.
Oh, Toby, you're muted. Unmute you.
I want to ask everybody if I kept it. I didn't give it to the lady who delivered this book by Jodi Picoult because I've always liked her other books, Mad
read it.
Honey, but I can't get into it just yet. But I'm going to give it another week or two.
Okay.
It's
Toby,
very
I'll just interrupt you. I read it because I like Jodi Picoult,
Yeah.
but I was not enthralled by the book. I
No.
was not.
it's
No, and I
Operon.
can
It's
understand
everything.
you trying.
It's
I
everything
can
that's going
understand
on
you trying
today.
putting it down. It wasn't great.
Okay.
I
Anybody
read
read?
it, but
I read it.
Anybody read The Personal Librarian?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm in that one.
Marie
It's
Benedict.
different. It's pretty good.
I heard about that one.
Pretty
actually.
good. It's about a family that passes. The
Well,
mother.
about one woman in
they
particular,
pass.
right? Like it's rooted in a real historical figure.
Yeah.
Oh, what's it called again?
The
Secret
Personal
Library?
The Personal Librarian.
Personal
gonna write that
Librarian
down.
by Marie Benedict.
And somebody
Yeah,
Marie
she becomes
Benedict.
the personal librarian for a
Oh, that sounds good.
for J.P. Morgan.
Oh,
It's interesting. It's interesting. So I'm reading that one, and this one I like the best. This one is called Leah.
Okay.
It's
By
written by
Ariella Friedman?
Ariella Friedman. She's a member of my synagogue,
Mhm.
Oh,
and it's all about a young woman, and she's from Montreal, and they talk about all different places in Montreal that I know that I like. So that's one of the reasons that I like
And
it.
it's
Plus, I
fiction.
like-
Is it fiction, Toby?
it says here it tells the story of a true Montreal heroine. So I'm not sure.
what's the author's name again, please?
Ariella Friedman.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So I like that one. So I'm working on that. one.
Okay.
I just got two more. 18 Days in October, the Yom Kippur War,
Mhm.
and how it created the modern Middle East. I'm going to read that. And I'm going to read Pineapple Street. I started it last time and they needed it, so I gave it back, but it looks interesting. About
Yeah,
a
it's on
family.
my list. Yeah, it's on my list.
It's on your
Okay.
list also?
What's it about, Toby? What's it about?
It's about siblings.
Oh,
Oh, what is it called? The Pineapple List?
Pineapple Street.
Pineapple Street by Jenny Jackson. It looks interesting. I started it and then I gave it up because they send me letters telling me this, return this one and return
yeah,
this
right.
one, return this one. I got I wasn't able to go and see the Automat, one of the movies on
Oh, I
Thursday.
saw it.
So I asked for it. 2 days after I got it, I get an email saying you have to send it back, otherwise you're going to be charged.
What?
In years, I haven't heard anything about charges. All of a sudden, I get this email.
I'll double check what's going on with your account.
I contacted Kathy. She renewed it for me. She didn't
Okay.
understand why
Yeah,
it
you
was
shouldn't have.
happening. No, out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I'm
I
getting.
thought they did away with charges, with late
So
charges.
did I.
Not
That's
for
why it
new,
shocked
not
me.
for new material.
Oh.
It's there are no late fees anymore for anything unless it's something that's new.
New, that in demand.
Mhm,
Yeah, I
mhm.
understand.
Well, the Automat, I'm sure, is not in demand.
It was very good, Toby. I saw it on PBS. It was it really, really good.
Okay, so now I have
Keep
it here. I
trying
just
to
need to
get it.
find
You'll
time to
enjoy
watch
it. And don't forget to get this, if you have your uncle from Winnipeg, you would enjoy the book I said, Who Gets In.
He gets in.
Who Gets
Who
In,
gets
an
in?
immigration
Oh, who
story.
gets in?
Yeah, if you had an uncle from Winnipeg and so on, that's what really
I'm
got
gonna
me
tell
into it.
his children. Maybe they're
Yeah,
gonna
that
get
it
also.
was
Because he's
amazing.
gone, my uncle. Yeah,
Yeah, my father-in-law too.
yeah. All right.
So Katie, what about you?
Oh, I want to hear Carol's first, and then I'll tell you about mine.
Oh, I forgot Carol. Carol?
Oh, did you forget me? Just kidding. Okay.
How could one forget Carol?
How can you forget? So here,
Carol
let's-
R.
Carol R. So Carol R made a list, and I'm just going to look it up in a second. Well, the first one is, I know, delightful. The Almost True Story of Tanner and Louise. It's about a 21-year-old who needs a job and works for an 80-year-old woman who needs help because she had a hip replacement and she needs a driver, but they hate each other. So they barely speak to each
Driving
other.
is Daisy.
No, it's
Yeah, a
better.
little bit, hey?
Anyway.
Yeah, it sounds like Driving is Daisy.
So she sort of eats in her room and pizza, whatever. And anyway, the TV is on one day. I won't tell you much more, but she sees that the woman she's working for, Louise, looks like this jewelry thief that happened decades ago. That she says it looks like her. So now she's suspicious. And the rest of the story is just delightful. Carol just actually sent me an email, and she says while she's waiting for her friend, she's reading it, and it's delightful. I promise you. The Almost True Story of Taryn and Louise.
What's the first name? Taryn or Karen?
T, like Tom. Taryn.
Okay. Karen and Louise. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
All
my
right.
first one.
Okay.
Then there's one. None of This Is True.
I like your titles so far.
Oh, thank you. True,
The
true.
almost true
True.
story, and none of this
the-
is true.
It's so cute. Yeah, and None of This Is True, which is like a thriller, a page turner. And
Who wrote that one?
oh, I know I should have looked it up for you. I'll get back to it in a minute.
Okay.
Oh, Everyone Here Is Lying. Again, a
I-
thriller.
Yeah.
You read it?
Did I read that one? I want to say I did.
Is that about the Trump administration?
It's
If
fiction.
it is, I'll read it, Carol. Thank you.
I'll give you the authors in a minute. I'll go back to something else. And The Couple Next Door.
That's
So I
another
think-
thriller.
So yes, and the reason I picked it up is that it's the same author who's Canadian. I think she's in BC or Midwest.
La
Sari.
Peña?
Yes. And now I like going to the area where it's big print. I love big print. And the last, there's a couple more. The Museum of Ordinary Things. I thought I mentioned it last time, but I checked, I didn't. And this is about somebody who wants to save things that they're just ordinary, but people throw out. So she finds this museum, and it's also a very, very nice story. Different. Now, All Your Perfects is Colleen. What's her name?
Hoover?
Yeah. So I'm not sure I like her books. The first one I read is It Ends With Us. Then she wrote another book, It Starts With Us, which I'm waiting for. But they're okay to read, but the stories aren't. They hit you in the heart, I don't need that now.
Yeah.
And then All Good People Here. So I'm gonna go to my.
It's the Museum of Ordinary Things. It's not the Museum of Extraordinary Things.
Okay.
I'm asking.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna check that. I could have the title wrong.
Because Alice Hoffman, I'm pretty sure Alice Hoffman, or I think it was Alice Hoffman, did the museum. I think it was Extraordinary Things though, but it might not be.
I'm on my phone. When I go on my phone, I find it hard to find
I
my
want to have somebody
profile
before my daughter comes this weekend.
What's that?
Oh no, I think Toby was talking to her watch. Oh, I just muted you, Toby. You can unmute yourself. I didn't want to. You don't have to be sorry. I'm reading your lips. Unmute yourself if you're going to talk to us.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
You
so
are forgiven.
The author of The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise is Colleen Oakley, Oakley.
She wrote one called like I've heard about The Almost True Story of Tanner and Louise. I'm interested in that one. She also wrote one called Twice in a Blue Moon, I think.
Oh, I'm going to look it up then. Okay. So None of This Is True is Lisa Jewell.
Yeah.
She writes really good. Yeah.
I feel like if you like Lisa Jewell, then you'll like Sherry LaPena and vice versa.
Right.
Like I feel like
exactly.
they don't write the same, but they have
Mhm.
similar elements, and they both write thrillers. And I feel like, yeah, if you like one,
Right.
then you'll like the other.
I didn't mention Happiness by Danielle Steele, but it's a good story. Okay. It's not all like she went away from all the fantasy meeting the prince or the
Well,
rich
she goes
guy.
back and forth, right? She can
Yes.
afford to do it all because she does like 5 books a year.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
So I would
used to
recommend
love her.
Happiness. I would recommend it. It's a good story.
Okay.
The Couple Next Door. So I'm getting, just bear with me. It is The Museum of Ordinary People, and it's by
Ordinary
Mike
People.
Gale.
Okay.
Mike Gale. Gayle.
Okay.
So let's see what else. Did I mention one
That
other?
sounds good,
The rest were from before, but I just want to say I picked up did we do The Island of Missing Trees?
I think you talked about that in one of the past.
Oh, good. Yeah, because I'm going to my thing.
That's Shafak, right?
Yeah. So Tom Lake is by Anne Patchett. I can't read her books. I started to do the audio, and until they started trying to get into it. So it's the mother telling the story of when she was in high school, how she dated this actor who became very famous. But I found it very slow. And then I looked up her other books, which weren't for me. So now I know what authors I like. So I'm going to read them, like Catherine Center. I'm going to go back. I haven't had a chance to read her latest one, Hello Stranger or something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and read that. And right now, I'll just tell you, I'm trying to get through the 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hillenbrand.
Yeah.
She reminds me a bit of like a Danielle Steele. She goes
Okay.
into all these descriptions of what they're wearing and what purse they're wearing and the shoes and the whatever. And this woman becomes a widow and she decides to do a five-star weekend. Yeah. And I don't know. I started to read it, I got halfway through, and now it's like I'm not getting too far. So I think to myself, like, what's it all about? I'm going to give it one more chance because I have till the weekend. So I'll try again, but a fast read. I'll go through different things. And has
So this
anybody
is
heard? Like she's written
Yeah, so
28
this is
books.
Carol's talking about Ellen Hilderbrand. She's written a ton of books. They all take place pretty much Nantucket kind of area, somewhat beachy,
That's
kind of
it, yeah.
summery, light-ish, about interpersonal relationships,
Right.
but and
think I
not
have read her.
necessarily small books, and not necessarily
No.
sagas either, like family sagas, but they
Right.
are very much like kind of like interpersonal family relationship stories.
Mhm.
What's her name
Yeah.
again?
Ellen
Ellen.
Hilderbrand.
Elin Hildebrand. She's written 28 books. This is I think my first one of hers.
Wow.
And that's my recommendations to date.
All right, well then it's up to me. So I have to say that I kind of started like in the last month, like after our last meeting, I started being very boring and just doing homework, and I was reading like finance books. So I won't talk too much about those. I reread The Wealthy Barber. I wrote, like I have a bunch of other Canadian personal finance books. That's what I was reading. And then I realized I'm reading all of these things and I wasn't really looking forward to all of my reading. So I first came across this book, The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi. And it was super, super fun. I had just recently been watching some like pirate stories. So this is about a female pirate, and it's set in like 1100 something. It's based on some story, like it's based on sort of mythology, stories, history, whatever. And it was very light, but it was very fun. I very much enjoyed it. It has magical elements to it. If that is a detractor for you, do not pick it up. And what did it make me think of? It made me think of another book that I had read years ago. And it's the first in a series, and it's called The Trader Baru Cormorant. So, and it made me think of that other book because that book is a lot more grounded. So again, it happens in a whole nother world. It's not our world well, this one happens in our world. That one happens in some other world that's like created, but it felt much more real than this one. This one felt a lot more fantastical and mythic, allegory, magical stuff. The Baru Cormorant still has elements of magic and stuff to it, but you feel really grounded and invested in the story a lot more than in this one. But I did really enjoy this Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi. It was a nice sort of integration into new books. And then the other one that I'm in the middle of, well, I'm not in the middle of it, I'm just finishing up right now, is this one, The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So she came out with a book called The Night Circus, maybe I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, and I hadn't read it, but it was very, very highly talked about. The Starless Sea came out in 2019, and it reminds me a little bit of, do you guys remember when we read the story Once Upon a River? It was
No.
Yes, I think so. With that girl, that little girl.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing.
So you and I liked that. Carol didn't, I believe.
Oh,
but
I loved
but
it.
the feeling that reading Once Upon a River, that was by, I want to say Diane Setterfield, but I might be wrong. But when we read Once Upon a River, we read it and it was, I think, February or March. Like it was a wintry, like it made me feel wintry and cozy and like the stories that you would be told as a child. Like it was sort of like you'd have those, but you'd be really into it. Anyway, it gave me a certain feeling that I really enjoyed for reading in winter. And the Starless Sea has a bit of that element to it. What I what I really appreciated and did not choose it for was that the opening chapters start with a pirate who's in prison, and I was like, oh, it's just pirates all the time for me right now, I guess. But it's sort of stories within stories within stories within stories. And I think that I mean, you know that I say all the time that timing is very important with the books that we end up choosing. And it's just hitting me at the right time, I think, as well. It's kind of it's definitely fantastical. It has it's not realism.
Other world.
But the ways that the characters are described and how they interact and the way that the story is moving along, like I don't know where it's going. And that's kind of unusual for me too. I find often I'm like, okay, then I know when I'm still happy to take the journey, but I kind of know where I'm going. And
Do you ever
this one,
stop reading a book? Do you ever put a book
oh,
down
all the
because you're
time,
not?
all the
You
time.
do?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Life's too short. Life's too short to read a book that you're not enjoy like because again I feel so strongly about like this is like my reading philosophy is that books are like relationships. Timing is very important. And sometimes you'll pick up a book and it's not speaking to you and you force yourself through it. I do force myself through anything, of course, that we're reading for, like if we're all reading it together and we want to discuss it. Um, but but by and large, if it's something that I've just picked up on a whim, which is most of the books that I pick up, then I'm not going to force myself through it. I'll just wait a little while, pick it up again another time, and usually that works for me. Also,
do authors
sometimes,
influence you? Authors influence your choices?
yeah,
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah.
because this is it, is that so there's something in librarianship called like the reader's advisory process. And it's like so if one of the questions that I'll often ask someone who's looking for a book recommendation, like I'm not going to recommend you necessarily a book that I've read that I've liked because that might not be what you're looking for, you know? So one of the questions that I like to ask is, what's the last book that you read that gave you the feeling that you want to have next, right? So sometimes and you all know that I also do tend to reread books. Like I have 6 or 7 books that I'll just go back to periodically because it's not a book like that I want. That I want. That's the world or
Amazing.
those are the personalities that I want to come back to and visit. But sometimes it's that feeling. And this is like this book, The Starless Sea, is giving me that same kind of feeling as Once Upon a River gave me, which I enjoyed. And that it's sort of the beginning of winter now. And we've had some snow. The cold is
And
like it
everything
makes
took
me
place
feel all
in the inn.
cozy.
Remember the inn? Everything took place in the inn in Once Upon a River. So I understand what you're saying. It
Yeah.
was cold, remember?
But not everything takes place in the inn, right?
So
Like
it's
but
outside.
that's very much the central area. And storytelling is like a main part of the whole narrative of that particular book. It's not just the storytelling of this particular story that's taking place. It's the inn that where it's taking place, they have storytellers who come.
Exactly.
And this book also, The Starless Sea, I think that might be part of the reason too. And it also takes place in winter. That's Once Upon a River starts in winter, and I think it ends in the winter as well. But this is like it's just gives that for me, it gives me that feeling of like if I were sitting by a fire in a really cozy chair and just ensconced with the cold outside. You know, like it just gives me that feeling, which I like.
I just love to open up a book and read it and just be lost in it. Like
That's it.
not want to do anything else but
That's
read that
it.
book. And You're
Right.
able to, right, Carol? You're able to put everything. You don't have to do the yarning, who yarns anymore, but whatever. You just you're immersed in the book. And when it's over, I'm very upset. I'm very upset when
Yes.
it's over. I miss the people. I miss the characters, and I want a
Right.
part two. I would like a part two on a lot
Yeah.
of these.
Yeah.
But this is why I feel like then you set it down and you come back to it in another month or two. You give it some time, and then you notice all kinds of things that you didn't notice the
Right.
first time.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I like. Like, in a way, I feel like that fast tracks that process when we have our traditional book clubs and we talk about the same book, because we'll have these impressions of what's happened, or I will have an impression of what has happened, or the way a character said something or did something, or their motivations behind it. And then while we're talking about it, that scene will come up and someone else will have a completely different idea about how it was. There was, when we read The Girl Who Wrote in Silk, I found
Right.
that happened.
I remember that too.
There
Oh,
was
yeah.
one of the characters, I think it was Roseanne, who had said, like, and he was just so typically Jewish. And she found the description or the depiction of this character to be almost stereotypically Jewish. And I hadn't read that character as being Jewish at all. I thought he was like Icelandic or something. Like, in my head, I was like thinking of him as like a Norwegian. He was a very minor character. He was I can't remember if he ran an inn or something. But anyway, he wasn't in it for very long. But it's funny because, again, it's these impressions that we get. Or there was another book that I had read years ago, and then I listened to the audio version. And I think I had heard, like, when I read it, I had looked at this character, this one particular character, as being like a Jewish bubby. And then when it was narrated, it was very clearly an Italian, like a very strongly Italian character.
Very similar.
But this is it, is that if it's not set out right, it's how we interpret it. It's like when we're talking about the movie versions of, or the television versions of books as well.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
have one interpretation and we think, oh, clearly. But then
Yeah.
that's not necessarily, it's the same as if we go see a play, right? You go see Shakespeare, you go watch Romeo and Juliet like 14 different times, and you'll see 14 different interpretations of these
It
set
is
characters.
amazing. Like Carol said, that where the crawdads sing, like you love the vegetation and the what and all that. I didn't even think about that, I mean, but it's something interesting. I would go back and watch the movie just to see what she's talking about, and but it is an interesting thing, you gain a lot when you each read the same book or watch the same movie and everybody gets there. It's amazing. It really is.
And it helps
really
to
is.
highlight those things. Again, these things that we might not have like focused on. And then you come back to it and you're like, oh yeah, I could see that.
It's interesting. It is.
You know when I know that it's a good book for me? When I feel like I'm in the story.
Yeah.
just
That's
part of it.
interesting.
Yeah,
You're part of it. How are you part? Are you a character or you're looking in?
I'm looking in.
You're looking in. Oh, that's interesting. That's
It's
a good
those
way to
times
put it.
when like you look up from your book and it takes you a minute or two or three to actually reorient yourself to the world around
Right.
you.
Mhm.
That's right, because you're in the book. That's a good
Yeah.
point. That sometimes happens to me too,
Yeah.
I think. I think it does, yeah. You're in another world. I think that's why reading is so wonderful. That to
Mhm,
me is
mhm.
why reading a book rather than a movie, I don't get the same thing out of a movie. I hate the acting. They don't know what they're doing. It's a stupid script. They're the whole thing. It's like it's very contrived. But a book, if it's a well-written, good book, you really can get right into it. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
That's what's really so wonderful. You get into away from your own life and into another person's life,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why we do it.
right.
But why do we forget, Carol? You read so many books, and you too, Kate. Do you forget how I forget a book after 20? Why is that? Why do we forget?
Okay. I don't know the answer to that, but I just recommended 2 books to a friend. So she already just read them within a week, not even, because we met at the meeting group last Wednesday. So I told her, take these, Actually, they were for 1 week. Anyway, so I said, but you have to remind me the ending because, so she told me about it. And, so I said, okay, good. I said, but you know what? Next time I see it on the 7-day loan, I'll take it out because I only need to read the end, the last maybe 2 chapters. But she also said the way it ended, and that was another thing, Rona. I find some of the endings, okay, are, well, I have to say not to my liking, but some of them are bizarre. And I always get this feeling the editors make them change it. I mentioned that before. But the book was so good to read that even the end, and then like you say, I forget anyway. So
I
but
find
I
I
That's
rarely
not-
forget
that's
the
the worst.
endings. I rarely forget the endings. A lot of
Okay.
a lot of the middle details will escape me of books
Yeah.
that I've read. But I think like even books that I've read multiple times, you're
Mhm.
never going to I am never going to retain every detail of like scene by scene or like the phrasing of a certain, description or
Mhm.
whatever. And this is one of the reasons why I find I go back to certain things because the certain turns of phrase that come up and I feel it's like going to a museum, right? And seeing it, like it's like you can see Van Gogh's Starry Night, a
So
million times, but it's awing. And this is similar where like these certain words or descriptions
mhm.
or characters, the way that they're described, and you're just like, oh yes,
Mhm. Well, Carol Blank reads much, much more than I do. And of course, she doesn't remember. So she says, I picked up a book. I thought this was plagiarism. And then I realized I had already read the book.
Yeah.
My sister does. My sister must read, I don't know, 10 books a week or what. It's
Wow.
ridiculous. And
Wow.
she can't remember a thing. She just reads and reads and reads.
Oh,
I think that's like not great to do that.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I think it's good. It's
it
good.
depends. I mean, like it's nice
Is
work
it
if you can
really?
get
I
it,
don't know.
right?
To me, like, what's the point of reading? You might as well read a newspaper and read another
It's like
newspaper.
watching a movie, though. Think about it. It's pleasure. I'm with her, right? It's pleasurable. She gets lost
Yeah.
in it. She forgets
Could be.
about what's going on. I don't think it's so terrible. And to each his own, right, Rona?
Yeah,
It's
of course.
true.
I can't read too much. I can't book overload. I find overwhelming. That's what it is. I can't read like so many books at once. I read a book and I enjoy it, and then I sort of have to take a little break and I have to sort of like find another one. I'm not like a reader like just devours everything. I think I have to do it one at a time, that's
I
So
think
what I
all
it
the
think.
books,
depends on the time. It depends on timing
yes.
too. And it depends on like I find as I've gotten older, I take more time between books more often,
Yeah.
or else I'll read
Right.
nonfiction in between the fiction books, or if I read like I'll read one kind of book and then another kind of book so that their stories are different enough that it's not too confusing or overlapping, or again, like expectations don't get in the way too much. I remember when I was a teenager and I didn't have school, that I would like I remember this distinctly is getting up like waking up in the morning and starting a book or reading a book and reading it and then walking down the stairs reading the book and like finding food to eat and eating it while reading the book, going back upstairs, reading it, and just like I just read for like 9 hours straight. I wouldn't
Whoa.
stop. And
Hmm.
this was like that was my perfect world, was just to be uninterrupted reading the whole time.
Right. So just to tell you, ladies, now that the snowbirds are leaving, all the books that I was put on reserve, that I was number 7, 10, 12.
Oh,
all
now it's
they
coming
all come in.
faster.
Yeah.
So
So
now
what
you
I do
have to
is,
devour.
right. No, I can't. I can't pressure myself because I do still like to watch movies and I still like to do other things. So I just tell them, put me back 3 weeks. Do this date, that date. But then before I know it, the next week, it's back in my inbox because everybody put it on, they froze it.
Yeah.
So what I do now is I'll take out 1 or 2 books. I'll start to read them. Of course, I have 3 weeks. But even if I can't finish it, I have a list in my notes of books that I took out but couldn't finish or couldn't read. And now I have a list of like, let's say 50 books, and that's not the 17 on reserve.
Uh-huh.
So, and there's always new books coming out, so yeah.
I'm always behind. I'm always
Yeah, there
behind.
you go. Yeah, but who's counting? And then I saw on TV, they interviewed Geddy Lee. He is the lead singer for Rush. I don't know if you remember
Yes,
that band.
I saw that too.
And he wrote a book, My Effin' Life. So
Yeah.
I just requested it, and he's a son of Holocaust survivors, and he says he dedicated chapter 3 to his parents.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the name Geddy came from his name Gary, because his mother has a very heavy Yiddish accent. So I thought that was so cute, and the name stuck with him.
Huh.
And
anybody
other people,
interested in Barbara Streisand's book?
thank you. Yes,
My cousin is buying it for me.
Okay, but I hear it's very
Hey,
heavy.
I'm glad I don't have my Kindle, because I probably would have bought it, and I think it's maybe a waste of money. I don't know.
Oh,
Is the
no
library
way.
gonna get it?
I'm
Oh,
gonna get the one where she reads it.
Oh,
cousin,
yeah,
yeah.
very good.
that's 47 hours long, Toby. 47 hours.
It's okay.
No.
I just saw a 2.5-hour interview on
Oh, where did you
Sirius.
see? Oh, you're
Sirius.
kidding. On Sirius Radio, they had it? Oh, you know
Yeah,
who
what's
it
his
was?
name? The guy with the glasses. I
Yeah,
forget.
that guy. I saw part of it. What's his
He
name?
just interviewed her for 2.5 hours. I listened, but
Howard Stern,
little bit at a time.
Howard Stern, the guy with the
Howard
glasses.
Stern.
Howard
I saw
Stern, yeah.
part.
And
Was
last
it
night on
2.5
Stephen
hours?
Colbert also.
Oh, she was on.
Howard Stern is not as serious. I don't know why she would sit down with Howard Stern.
I
would
cannot
rather
She
even
not.
loved being with
imagine.
him. She loved it.
Really?
It's publicity. Come on. He's
Yeah,
got
because
millions,
to me,
millions
he's
of,
like, yeah.
Rona, she's promoting her book.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. You can't open up Google. You can't open up anything without seeing more and more excerpts from her book, of course. But so are you ladies going to read it? So
I'm going to take it out.
I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, that should be interesting to
But
listen to.
what's good?
There's no way. 47 hours?
Does it
I'm
say that?
telling
Did you
you,
check
It
that?
can't be 47 hour
I'm telling you,
How many
look it
discs?
up. I'm sure I
How
read
many-
like it takes like
Okay,
just look it
Rona,
up on Google.
Like
how many-
maybe
how many
18. I'm
discs?
looking it up right now because I just can't
How many
believe.
discs would it take?
Yeah, that's what they
The
said.
audio book, her.
But I want to tell you, audiobooks are good because while I'm peeling vegetables or while I'm doing like some art stuff,
Right.
so that I like, but this Tom Lake book, oh my God, until I got into it and I thought, I don't need this, even though, I just gave it back. So if somebody reads it or recommends it next time. But I read the story.
That would be interesting in audio. How many hours?
I'm
Katie?
looking. My my device is.
It was ridiculous amount of hours.
I could
They
ask
said-
Siri. Hold on.
You're right. It's about 48 hours.
You found it?
is. That's what I heard.
That's what I heard too.
How on earth?
Can you imagine? I mean, like.
Well, listen, Rona, how many discs would it be for the audio? It would be like 2 volumes or something.
It would have to be.
Know, but I was floored. I couldn't believe it. But you're right, Toby. It's a good thing to listen to when you're doing something boring, and that really helps you do it. There's no question.
Katie, what's our next book?
Our next book is How the Penguin Saved Veronica.
Oh, I started that one.
Well, now you can finish it.
I didn't finish
Can I
it.
just say one thing? If I would see that book on the shelf and it wasn't a book club and you didn't recommend it, I don't think I would pick it up at all. I think it's a ridiculous title. Am I right or wrong? Do you agree with
Forget
me?
titles. Some books, I don't know where they get the titles.
I can't remember how far along I got.
But if nobody recommended it to you, Would you pick that book up off the shelf? And maybe it's a
No,
I
no.
I would.
That's what
I
I'm
pick
saying.
most books up off the shelf at least.
I would.
I mean,
I
I don't
would.
pick the ones that I wouldn't pick up off the shelf are the ones, well, I mean, I don't know, it's either the title or sometimes it's the author's name, sometimes it's the blurb, like there's a blurb by another author that I know and like that I am like, oh, and that's what leads me to pick it up. The ones
Right.
that I wouldn't normally pick up are the ones that have like the picture of like a woman's face or like the side of like it's just that I'm just like yeah. But a ton of those books I've read and then I've really enjoyed, but it's just not something that I would 48 hours. It is 48 hours that
It
Barbara
is,
Streisand
yeah.
audiobook.
I
The
couldn't believe
longest
it.
audiobook that the publisher has ever produced. 48 hours. I cannot imagine.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I remembered it, because I was so shocked, you know.
Yeah.
The book itself is 1,000 pages or something. The book is very long. The memoir, it's also
And she
very
cut
long.
it down.
But this is
She
like
cut it
this
down.
one, the Starless Sea. So it's like 500 pages. And I think its audio, I mean, its audio also is really big. I think it's more than 12 hours. I think it might be 18.
Would the library get in this Barbara Streisand, or they wouldn't get it? Would they get that in?
We're going to get
You
it
think?
in and we'll get it in as audiobook, but we might not get it in as audiobook on discs. We might have it as digital.
And what about regular?
The regular book, oh, I'm almost positive that if
They
it's
would. They would.
we must do.
Okay.
I'll check that right now.
Because I don't know how much it is on Kindle. I think it's expensive on Kindle. So I
Katie,
don't really.
Yeah.
which book thing can I find? How the Penguin Saved Veronica. I think that's how I read it the first time.
What do you mean, which book thing?
Is it what do you call it? You know,
It's
the
the
ones
book
that are
club, kid.
on my computer, on my phone.
Like you're wondering if you read it through Cloud Library or
Yeah. Hoopla. Or
Hoopla?
one of those. It's not in Hoopla, I see. It's not here.
No. Do you want me to send you a copy
Yeah,
of the book
okay.
club kit?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just missed today. Today was my delivery. She couldn't get in. My
But-
thing downstairs wasn't working.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Cloud Library. Let's see what it has.
So
here.
we're gonna. So what's that book about? The one with how Veronica saved the penguins, even though I don't like the title.
I'll read you the back of it. That's it. That's all
Okay.
we're getting. And then we'll say that
Okay.
this is going to be for next
I'm
month,
gonna
right?
go pick it up today.
So
Yeah.
this is our next meeting, I will say now, is I think it's December 12th. December 12th, mark it off on your calendars. And we
Yeah.
will be discussing How the Penguin Saved Veronica. It's by Hazel Pryor. A curmudgeonly but charming old woman, her estranged grandson, and a colony of penguins prove it's never too late to be the person you want to be in this rich, heartwarming story from the acclaimed author of Ellie and the Harpmaker. 85-year-old Veronica McCready is estranged from her family and wants to find a worthwhile cause to leave her fortune to. When she sees a documentary about penguins being studied in Antarctica, she tells the scientists she's coming to visit, and she won't take
Oh.
no for an answer. Shortly after arriving, she convinces the reluctant team to rescue an orphaned baby penguin. He becomes part of life at the base, and Veronica's closed heart starts to open. Her grandson Patrick follows Veronica to Antarctica to make one last attempt to get to know his grandmother. Together, Veronica, Patrick, and even the scientists learn what family, love, and connection are all about.
It sounds like a heartwarming story. I like that.
We'll see. We'll see. I haven't heard anything bad about it so far, so I thought it would be a nice, again, penguins,
Yeah.
December, be a nice sort of segue to the new year.
Sounds good.
All
Sounds
right,
very good.
everyone. I'm going to set copies aside for each of you.
Yeah, me, I'm coming in later.
Yes, and Toby, we will arrange for another delivery probably sometime next week. And I can't hear you because you're on mute. I don't know if you know, or I don't know if you're talking to me or not.
I am. I'm
Oh.
getting it on Cloud Library. It's coming in.
Oh, so you don't want me to send you a copy?
No, send the copy. Because
Okay.
sometimes I forget to listen to it or to watch it on the phone.
All right.
But a book, it's around the house, so I see it, you know.
Fair enough. Will do. And then I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day. It's been fun
You
having
too.
so
Thank
many
you. It
new
was wonderful.
recommendations.
Yeah, I love it. I write them down. And I love getting the recommendations.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Okay.
Katie.
It's
Have a
my
good
pleasure.
day.
Thank you, everybody.
You too.
Bye.
See you soon.